the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space.
Yeah, boy!
My guest today is Alex Wern. Alex is the CEO of IDEX, the decentralized crypto exchange. Hello, Alex, and welcome to the show.
Hey, Andy. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Awesome. Well, great to have you here, Alex. Just to begin with, before we get into the wonderful world of decentralized exchanges, and we'll talk all about IDEX, let's get some background on yourself, because I understand you're a bit of a product guy.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So I've spent my career in technology and in one way or the other, a little over a decade now, primarily in product management roles. I was originally at a startup that got acquired by IBM, and then most recently spent some time at Amazon, where I was leading capacity planning for Amazon Logistics. So that's the delivery network that gets all of the packages out the door and to people's homes. And I was managing some of the products that help the delivery network get everything done, kind of on time and with the resources they had. So yeah, I brought that product lens into the cryptocurrency space. Obviously kind of an emphasis on end user experience and trying to make these new technologies as easy to use and as accessible as possible.
Yes, that's right. And, obviously don't take this the wrong way, Alex, but I think it is fair to say that, for some time, DEXes in particular, in the early days, still a bit now, really, they did sort of lack that product focus or user experience focus, if you like, right?
100%. And it's funny, it seems to be an axiom that the more blockchain you have in your application, the more you have to be careful about, how hard it's going to be for users to interact. The flip side, centralized exchanges where, frankly, you don't even need to interact with the blockchain are kind of at odds with a lot of the goals of this industry, where, these self-sovereign digital assets that you can maintain control over, you're just turning over custody to them and trusting them to keep your funds safe. So we're working to find that balance of empowering users, but in a way that allows them to do it, without too much headache.
Yeah, that's such a good way of putting it, and exactly right. And I think you're very correct to point out that, just at the moment, the more that you do have to interact with a blockchain, the slightly, I wouldn't say clumsier necessarily, but the harder or the more steps sometimes there can be involved, and that's just the nature of the beast at the moment. But, well, let's bring it back to IDEX, Alex. So, you guys were actually one of the first DEXes, or one of the first to sort of get any kind of, brand recognition and user numbers a few years ago now, probably back in 2017 or 2018, I think. But, well, yeah, so look, tell us the kind of the origin story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I first found out about crypto in 2012. It was an article, The Rise and Fall of Bitcoin, when I think it went up to $28 and back down to $2. And like most people, I really like this phrase. I think it goes something like, come for the money and stay for the money. And it sounds kind of flippant at first, but I think it speaks to how most people get involved with crypto, in that you first hear about it from a speculation perspective, something about the price volatility, or someone bought a bunch of Dogecoin and is now up 4x in a few weeks. And that piques your interest, but you stay because of all the cool things that are being done and being built related to, in this case, money with respect to Bitcoin, or kind of in a broader sense, finance in general, with things like smart contracts and DeFi. So that's really what piqued my interest was, how can we take this concept of smart contracts, automated programs, and use it to build more interesting financial systems? And worked on a few different projects initially, The first was a fiat-backed stablecoin in 2015, essentially Ethereum competitor to Tether. They were only on the Bitcoin Omni chain at the time. A gift card and retail-specific currency, the idea that retailers could issue their own gift cards using cryptocurrency, which would help solve problems of transferability of gift cards. But eventually we found success with IDEX. As you mentioned, we really came on the scene in late 2017, kind of in line with that previous bull run, where there's a lot of interest and excitement around the cryptocurrency space. To touch a little bit about IDEX to date, we use an order book design and what we call a hybrid exchange. The idea here is to bring the performance and user experience of a centralized exchange, but with the big difference being that everyone is able to be their own custodian. As I mentioned in the beginning of this call, it's a bit of a sore spot on the industry that the most common way of interacting with this technology is through a third-party intermediary where they maintain complete control over the crypto assets. So with this model, we had some pretty big success early on. And at one point, we're actually the top contract on the Ethereum network. But as always, things change. And we've seen the recent rise of AMMs and really a lot of product market fit on that side. So that's given us some new insights into where we're taking the company here over the next few months.
Yeah, very nice, Alex. That's a very, very quick snapshot of DEX history in 1 minute. So you've done well there. But tell us a little bit more about I guess the IDEX model then, because you sort of as you started off with I guess a DEX model, then you did IDEX 2.0 and this hybrid model that you've talked about, and I think now you're talking about something called hybrid liquidity, right? So what do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, over the past year, we've really seen the emergence of a new type of decentralized exchange. And I imagine most of your listeners are probably familiar with the concept of an automated market maker.
Sure.
This gets rid of order books and allows a smart contract to automatically offer prices to customers based on a ratio of assets that are held by the smart contract. And the growth of these products has been really impressive. I think they've really found product market fit on kind of this decentralized exchange side. But there's still quite a lot of issues that stem from this current design. In particular, things like, and you can see this just browsing Twitter and looking at people talking about their interactions. There's a lot of issues with things like failed transactions. You'll submit an order and it just, for whatever reason, doesn't go through. You have high slippage. The ability for users to get front run, have other bots on the network that kind of wait for users and sniff out their transactions in order to jump in front of them and actually end up the user executes at a worse price. A lot of these things that we look at as being symptomatic of users being really close to the blockchain and kind of intimately involved in that transaction execution process. And as I mentioned, a big focus of ours is looking at how we can bring new innovations to smooth over some of those rough edges and give users the products that they want, the functionality that they want, but in a way that is as easy to use as possible and ideally creates a delightful user experience. And this is what we're excited to announce with IDEX Hybrid Liquidity. So we see this as a new kind of breakthrough that combines our existing order book and trading engine, this off-chain hybrid element, but brings in the liquidity pools of an AMM. And in doing so, we're able to address a lot of these issues. So, for example, the failed trades that I mentioned, that happens when users collide on chain and one of the users' trades is unable to execute. If you bring in a trading engine, you're actually able to correctly order and sequence those transactions so that there's no possibility for that to happen. You also get things like lower slippage settings, no opportunity for front running from malicious actors, and a whole host of other benefits that come from this approach.
Yeah, very interesting, Alex. And so, I mean, you're right. The sort of the story of the rise of DeFi since I guess, probably all throughout last year and then into this year. So we've just seen an explosion in all these, particularly to begin with the Ethereum-based DeFi ecosystem and the rise of Uniswap and Curve and Balancer and Aave and all these other protocols, right? So you've obviously, paid close attention to what's been happening, and so you've, come up with your own roadmap or way forward as a way to respond. But so just before, well, talk me through what it was like to sort of see all of this new ecosystem kind of spring up around you.
I mean, overall, it's extremely exciting, right? To think that these products, which a couple years ago, 2018 and early 2019 were rough for any crypto builder in the industry, right? Yes. You start to, as the enthusiasm fades, and kind of the fair weather fans leave for other interests, it starts to become, even the most diehard builders start to question, like, well, maybe that was it, right? Maybe there's we haven't quite figured out how to make these things work. So to see kind of this groundswell of new applications all coming up at the same time, it seemed like people had really kind of cracked that nut of how to get people interested in these products. And the thing that I think it's most attributed to was the ability to empower your average user to be a part of the financial system. And what I mean by that is, take a simple example like Aave. It allowed your average user to show up and either lend assets that they had just sitting around that they can now earn an interest rate on, and even further, use those assets as collateral to then borrow and do something else within the ecosystem. So, something that was previously cumbersome or only available to large companies that were well collateralized and had, big shareholders, now your average guy in crypto could be a participant. And I think that was a really powerful concept. And so we looked at this on the exchange side, and the idea that users can now become market makers just in one click by providing assets that they have available. And obviously that's been a really just a fascinating concept that has a lot of users interested in participating, as evidenced by the growth in DeFi, right? And the fact that TVL, last I looked, it's a total value locked, which represents the amount of assets deposited in these protocols. Last I looked, had crossed $70 billion. And to think that we'd be at this level, even a year ago, it's pretty amazing to watch.
It sure is. And well, how do you approach, what's your lens for viewing these other protocols? Do you see them as competitors, or are you all kind of trying to grow out the same pie and make it bigger for everyone? What's your approach there? Because you probably have seen all these new guys come along and sort of just explode in terms of the number of assets locked, or the kind of the volume that some of these new DEXes are getting. So what's your approach there?
I think it's a bit of both, right? I mean, fortunately, the industry is growing fast enough at this point that I don't think it's worth spending a lot of time thinking about these other protocols as, I have to steal market share from their customer base. There's an opportunity to capture new users as they're entering the space. And if you have a differentiated product, you're going to be capturing a different set of users. That said, ultimately, there's only so much trading and liquidity that exists within the ecosystem. So even though it's growing at a pretty phenomenal clip, everyone that's kind of competing on the trading side is ultimately a competitor, both DEXes and centralized exchanges.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And also with your IDEX Hybrid Liquidity, so what do you think? What kind of innovations do you think that enables that potentially give you some kind of differentiation in terms of your offering?
So I think there's two key buckets. The first is addressing a lot of those challenges of existing AMMs that I mentioned a few minutes ago. And it's really all about the usability. And if you kind of think of it as a spectrum, centralized exchanges are by and large a fantastic user experience, with the big glaring issue that you have to turn over control of your funds in order to use them. And a quick Google search will show you a number of scenarios or circumstances to this day where that's problematic. The latest being a large exchange in Turkey that last I saw appeared to have run off with $2 billion worth of customer deposits.
Yeah.
So this is still an issue for everyone in the space kind of thinking about this. The flip side is that there are these new products, in particular AMMs, that have seen a lot of success by allowing users to maintain control of the entire process, but they also come with quite a few challenges and warts in the sense that there's a lot of problems with the product that ideally wouldn't exist and ultimately frustrate users. So we're excited because we found that kind of unique balance of making sure all of the benefits of these products are retained, in particular self-custody and the ability for anyone to become a market maker, while at the same time bringing just enough coordination to eliminate those issues such as failed trades, high slippage, these gas wars, front running, et cetera. The second piece is the ability to incorporate order book products and features into an AMM design. So that's something that no product has really been able to tackle or attempt to date, which is the ability to bring advanced orders such as limit orders or stop loss and allow those to interact and trade against a liquidity pool. And so we've got this unique combination of the kind of high performance trading engine and features that you expect from a centralized exchange, combined with the liquidity, ease of market making, and all the benefits that you get from the AMM DEX side.
Yeah, very nice, Alex. So, well, if that's the case, then, so everyone is kind of, building out their own version of what they think kind of the ideal exchange model should be. And we've got everything from, completely decentralized to completely centralized and, various models in between. So where do you see this heading in the future, because it's just amazing how far DeFi has kind of come in, well, really just, under 2 years, and the kind of, exotic financial products that are now available thanks to smart contracts. And that's just on Ethereum. There's the sudden rise of Binance Smart Chain as well, which is kind of yet another kind of take on all this. So yeah, just interested in any thoughts you see on where all this is heading, and particularly from even like the kind of let's call it legacy finance, right? Because the banks are going to be having to take an interest in what is now possible with DeFi, and it'll take a long time for all this to play out. But yeah, go for it, Alex. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. So I think about this quite a bit, and I'm still not sure exactly how it's going to play out. And maybe I can give kind of a couple, I think it's kind of a range of scenarios. I think, you mentioned the rise of Binance Smart Chain and all of these other new competitors to Ethereum. And I think that shows how much interest and demand there is for these products that was being held back by the high gas fees on the Ethereum network. If it takes $100 to settle a transaction, that's going to price out a large segment of the population and a large percentage of users. So I think overall, these new ways of interacting with these products are fantastic. It trains users on kind of patterns of behavior that ultimately bring the industry along to what kind of the vision originally was, which was more protocol type applications, things that have less and less involvement from middlemen and centralized intermediaries. That said, I think there's a whole host of reasons to believe that a lot of these kind of centralized products will continue to stick around and even grow. A couple examples being, one, many individuals or particularly institutions don't want to or can't legally custody their own assets. They have to go with a third-party custodian who is licensed and regulated. for a whole host of reasons. So there's certainly going to be providers that bring that service. One of the questions becomes, will those custodians interact with DeFi protocols? Absolutely. But I don't necessarily think that will happen exclusively, if only because there are still speed benefits in terms of latency and throughput that can really only be achieved with centralization. So any blockchain network that is a network of nodes, it's inherently going to be slower and have more delay than a single computer system, a single server processing all the transactions itself. So the question really becomes, where is that centralization and speed and power necessary? I think things like derivatives exchanges are for the foreseeable future going to be centralized, in my opinion. But we'll start to see decentralized alternatives that maybe make a slight sacrifice on that metric, or have some creative ways of lessening the impact of that turning down that one attribute, and they're going to start to take a ton of market share and users from those other products. So I see it being kind of landing somewhere in the middle, but given where DEXes are today and where they were a few years ago, the growth is phenomenal, and I think it's absolutely going to continue.
Yes, I think you're exactly right there, Alex. And look, I was doing a little bit of research into yourself, and I saw that in another interview you did maybe a year or so ago. I think you were asked something like, what's one of your controversial crypto opinions, and you said something to the effect of, you think that most users have no business being their own bank. But that's okay. While some will choose to manage their own holdings, hold their own keys, not your coins. But the majority, you said, may well turn to presumably centralized third-party tools and services for help. So I'd love just to kind of put this into context, because I very much agree with you, actually. And I guess we're talking about maybe retail holders or boomers, or people getting into Doge or whatever right now, is very much a kind of different market segment from DeFi. Is that sort of what you're getting at there?
Yeah, very much so. And I think I still agree with kind of that core statement. I think the one thing I'll add is that the power of DeFi and this approach to building software is about giving users a choice. So if you want, if it scares you, if you don't feel up to the task, or you're not technically proficient, you're going to have the option to have someone help you along the way. I think you're going to see improvement of kind of these non-custodial yet still secure products, wallets that have a way of authenticating and giving backups, and making it a lot easier than the way it is now, where you have to write a seed down on a piece of paper and hope you don't lose it, because that's got access to everything. So I think you're going to continue to see improvement on the UX on those sides, but you're also going to have people that just say, I don't want to learn any of this. I want someone to kind of manage this for me. And I think that's okay. I think the key is that regardless if you're an individual who wants to maintain custody of your keys and stamp it into a metal plate that you bury in the backyard, or if you're someone who doesn't want to have anything to do with it, the underlying systems that you all interact with should have the flexibility to support any and all preferences from a custody perspective. So I think that's where we get really excited is, these things by and large today have required a level of technical understanding, and you do have to get a little closer to the tech in order to get involved. But that's rapidly changing as more and more ways of interacting with these protocols come online. And I think eventually they're going to be kind of an underlying transaction layer across all these different ways of interacting with the system.
Yeah, very nice, Alex. Thank you for clarifying your statement there and giving us some additional context. And I think you're right. It's just a matter of time as some of the bumps and technical hurdles are slightly smoothed out for different segments of the market. And, it's really up to the individual how much personal responsibility and headaches, really, that they want to take on to secure their assets. But the key is to try and have them as secure as they can be. And you got to feel sorry for these people in Turkey, of all places, which is going through some tough economic times. So it's just a real shame when you see these centralized exchanges just continue to rug people effectively, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Well, let's finish this part of the podcast off, Alex. Bring it back to IDEX. So kind of talk us through, I guess, the immediate future. What have you guys got on your roadmap? What are you doing to try and promote the brand, your exchange, and try and, get more users back on the platform and entice them with whatever is in your product pipeline?
Absolutely. So the main focus right now is getting the new hybrid liquidity product out the door. We're targeting a launch at the end of Q2 2021. So we'll have a lot more updates around that. We're going to be giving kind of weekly updates on the progress, keeping the community and users informed of everything and how that's coming along. In terms of kind of getting out awareness and adoption, I think it's become a pretty solid playbook, frankly, these days of attracting users with a liquidity mining program, finding projects that also want to participate. But in our case, it's also about communicating those value propositions. So we've got a couple creative marketing campaigns that we're going to roll out that will highlight some of the challenges with existing products and, of course, shine a light on how IDEX is able to address those. And we also think that there's going to be an opportunity to work with specific projects to bring them over to IDEX and bring their communities with them because of the benefits that the IDEX platform will offer to their customers. A lot of things in the works, and certainly exciting time here at IDEX as we move towards this new product vision.
Fantastic. Okay, well, let's go to a very quick break, and then we will come back and we'll finish off with the very famous crypto conversation hot take round.
In today's crypto market, the team at Brave New Coin are the sector's leading builders of custom crypto indices. BNC's powerful indexing engine draws on Brave New Coin's premium data to calculate high-frequency intraday and end-of-day indices for a wide range of index products. BNC's custom indices help you to gain exposure to the crypto assets class and track your performance against the market without having to become a stock picker. Not sure what you need? A Brave New Coin consultant can help you assess your requirements. Contact BNC today to find out more. Are you ready to trade the future of crypto today? Introducing Leverage, a self-custodial decentralized exchange that performs with the speed and features you're accustomed to. Leverage is fast. It's powered by Gluon, a revolutionary DeFi infrastructure that makes DeFi work at scale. It brings speed, transparency, and massive gas efficiencies to its users. Say goodbye to exchange hacks, front-running, Ethereum network congestion, and high fees. Leverage is the future of trading. It combines the best features of CeFi with all the benefits of DeFi. Like William Gibson said, the future is already here, but in this case, it's evenly distributed and completely decentralized. Go to leverage.io and trade the future of crypto today.
All right, we're back, and I'm with Alex Wern. Alex, of course, is the CEO of the IDEX Decentralized crypto exchange. And Alex, as you may be aware, I like to finish each podcast with a quick round of rapid-fire crypto conversation hot takes. Alex, where do you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-coin opportunist spectrum?
Clearly, I'm not entirely a Bitcoin maximalist, building a product firmly on Ethereum and other smart contract blockchains. I think my insight is Bitcoin maximalism is a natural defense reaction to, frankly, a lot of the crap and scams that does pop up in the space. Yeah. And it can be, in some ways, if you don't have a ton of time to focus and learn, it can be a smart strategy to just say, look, I feel confident in what I know about Bitcoin, and I'm going to ignore everything else. But I think, in my opinion, it's pretty clear at this point you do so to your own peril if you have the time and energy to research, because there's a ton of amazing things happening outside of Bitcoin.
Very good answer, Alex. Very good answer. Okay, well, what would you say, though, is your firmest conviction, a crypto opinion?
That's a good question. I actually, so in spite of not being a Bitcoin maxi, I don't think that Bitcoin will be toppled in the near future. So that's maybe a hot topic right now. People talking about the incoming flippening of Ethereum over Bitcoin. I just don't see it happening in the near term. I think there's too much momentum around the broader kind of perspective, or the broader investment community just starting to get their feet wet with Bitcoin. And I think there's just going to be a lot of interest in that, even though you see right now kind of a surge on the Ethereum side.
Yeah, just on that, Alex, I mean, I agree with you there. And it's just, I mean, I get it when you see, kind of people that are, let's say, the equivalent of Bitcoin maxis, but they're Ethereum maxis. So, of course, they get excited when Ethereum is doing well. And we saw this in 2017, where the flippening sort of, it got quite close then, actually, for a little while. But I think, do you agree that, anything flippening Bitcoin would be not necessarily catastrophic for crypto, but it really would set the entire ecosystem back, I think, because if people kind of lost confidence in Bitcoin, what does that say about blockchain as a whole, right?
Yeah, and maybe that's my wishful thinking coming through, that I hope it doesn't happen this cycle, because I do think if it happened in the next 6 months, I think timing is everything, right? If it happened 10 years from now, after just, relentless development and explosive continued growth of Ethereum, maybe people would say, yeah, I kind of see it. If it happened now, I think it would be more problematic than if it did in the future, because, frankly, most of the world, most of the kind of sophisticated investors are just now getting the green light that this crypto stuff is okay, but Bitcoin's kind of the king and the safe one. And if tomorrow that's not the case, I think that would be not catastrophic long term, but I certainly think it would be detrimental in the near term.
Yeah, I agree. And look, it's enough fun at the moment, Alex, to watch Doge. Doge has flipped it's flipped everything apart from BNB, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, which is incredible, right?
Yeah, you have to laugh, right? And in some ways it's almost a bit embarrassing, because I love these takes that are the only difference between Bitcoin and Doge is Bitcoin takes itself seriously. But ultimately they're, scarce digital assets, a hedge. I love the people well, one goes up, it's a hedge against the Fed. The other goes up, it's just a speculative meme coin. It does kind of, shove some of the harsh realities of the crypto space and why people are interested in this stuff in your face. But like I kind of said at the beginning, people come for the money, but they'll stay for, I believe at least, the sound money.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Doge, because is it this Saturday night that Elon is doing Saturday Night Live? And look, it seems likely that there'll be some kind of Doge skit involved there, and probably a lot of people are kind of waiting for that moment to kind of get maybe that kind of parabolic blow off top on Doge, and yeah, there might be a pullback after that, but yeah, we'll have to see.
It's going to be really interesting. It's like the Twitter meme king hopping on Saturday Night Live, having recently endorsed the king meme coin. So it's certainly going to be a fun thing to watch.
Yeah. All right. Well, I just love that. Yeah, memes rule the world right now. But let's bring it back to the crypto conversation hot take round, Alex. So Bill Gates famously said, recently divorced or about to be divorced, Bill Gates once said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. So let's focus on, I guess, DeFi or DEXes. What do they look like in 10 years' time? Strange question, I know.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's hard to imagine. A great example of that quote in action was 2018 when everyone said DEXes are the revolution and centralized exchanges are going to die. 2019, it seemed like that might not be the case. And now here we are again, kind of seeing a strong resurgence. I think, one of the biggest changes that I think we'll see is most users won't be interacting with the exchanges directly, and in many cases won't necessarily know what exchange is doing the work. Just like if I trade on Robinhood, I'm not really aware of how they're executing that trade behind the scenes, or who their broker is or who they're working with. I'm just using an app in order to buy and sell the assets that I want. So I think that to me is going to be a clear kind of progression where these things start to fade into the background and start to become more plumbing behind the scenes, where the end user will have the relationship with things like wallets or other platforms.
Yeah, very nice. Okay. Well, similarly, Alex, William Gibson, a sci-fi author, he said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. A very famous crypto quote. Can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people just aren't really aware of it?
I guess sticking with the crypto one, I'm still, every time I take out, I use some of these lending protocols, and every time you come in and without talking to anyone, without showing any loan, signing any loan documents, any sort of, are you going to be good for this loan? Just being able to deposit cryptocurrency and immediately take out a loan against it, like that's pretty sci-fi and futuristic to me. And I'm excited by this idea that you can extend it through some form of reputation and credit score to allow people to do it in an uncollateralized way. So that really hasn't been cracked yet, but every time I do that, it feels pretty sci-fi, especially when you contrast that with, we're about to buy a house and those conversations and how much information they wanted and how much back and forth it required. It certainly feels like the future.
It sure does. I just want to dig into that slightly more, Alex. So what are you thinking of when you talk about maybe something that doesn't require a collateral and perhaps some kind of credit score? Are you still talking about DeFi?
Well, I mean, this is where it starts to touch the real world. And I think you can imagine one way is just an on-chain identity that allows for ultimately collections, right? Like, cause that's why they require collateral today, is because I don't know who that is and I can't go garnish their wages or, repossess their home or something like that. So I require crypto as collateral. I think it will be interesting. I imagine some baby steps will be on-chain addresses that maybe are tied to public identities, or even like valuable anon identities. Someone with 100K Twitter followers who's seen as a good participant in the space. Like, if they have an address that's publicly tied, it can be pseudonymous, but they're not going to want to burn that reputation on, just taking out a loan within DeFi. So I could imagine that's maybe the first step, is what, kind of reimagining what reputation and identity look like in a decentralized way. Of course, the big challenge is there's always going to be the risk of this exit, and where do you kind of draw the line of comfort. But I'm excited. I know there's quite a few teams experimenting along those lines.
Nice, Alex. All right, well, let's keep it sci-fi. Time to zoom out, get a little bit weird. Alex, what do you see as the long-term future for the human race? Do you see dystopia or utopia?
I'm an optimist at heart. I love that, maybe just to bring it back to Elon Musk, who we talked about a little earlier. He's certainly a character, very polarizing. I love that his focus on becoming a multi-planetary species. There's some great kind of writing by, if you've heard of Wait But Why, It's this great series on Elon Musk's grand vision and
that's an amazing website. So that I don't know, I can't remember his name. Do you know the guy's name? But the guy behind that.
I'm blanking on it. But I love his writing, and in particular, he does a great one on like Elon Musk's master plan.
Yes.
And how SpaceX and Tesla all come together.
And this is from like 5 years or 6 years ago. They were really early on it.
It was pretty prescient, right? And how it all comes together to essentially harness capitalism to help save and reduce some of the issues we have with our current planet, but also make sure, just because probability, statistically wise, another asteroid will come. It could destroy the entire planet, and if we're not multiplanetary by that point, that could be the end of the human race. And so I'm optimistic. I don't know what time frame those things will occur on. Obviously it's kind of hard to marshal a lot of resources. So that's why I think it's cool that you've got, some kind of rogue actors, some guys out there that believe in this and are putting all their energy into it.
Yeah, love that, Alex. I'll try and see if I can put a link to what is it called? Wait But Why? I always forget how you say it.
Wait But Why.
Yeah, but just they have, and the website there, they have some incredible long reads on a few different topics loosely related to sci-fi and the future and, well, other things as well. But yeah, Tim Urban.
Absolutely.
Tim Urban is the guy.
Yep, that's right.
All right, let's finish this off, Alex. So again, with sci-fi, finally, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, show, or universe?
Yeah, so tough to pick a favorite. I will say I just finished The Three-Body Problem, and that series, if you're not familiar, it's like the top sci-fi series in China. It's a writer out of China, and I think it recently got picked up for a Netflix deal, and then mysteriously, I think the director died of mysterious circumstances. Anyway, there's controversy around the Netflix series, but the books itself are also amazing. It's just a really kind of unique take on what encounters with alien life would be like. And I think it brings in some elements of like psychology and game theory that haven't been really discussed, or I hadn't seen really discussed in other kind of sci-fi or futuristic series. So I really enjoyed it and highly recommend it for anyone who's into sci-fi.
Yeah, and funnily enough, you're about the third person to go for the three-body problem in, the last maybe, 15 or so podcasts. And yeah, I haven't read it myself, but I'm aware that it is very much a famous piece of sci-fi. And and because it's written by a Chinese author, has that perhaps a different perspective. Probably, got to read that. I must read that, Alex.
That's funny. I wonder if there's also a relation to if you've seen articles talking about Ethereum as a dark forest. The concept in the book is that if you let other alien life know that you're exist, then it's in their best interest to immediately destroy your planet, lest they become powerful and be a threat to their own species. So the concept is that the universe is a dark forest, and the goal is to not let anyone know of your existence. And so there's this same concept in the Ethereum network of if there's an exploit that you are trying to white hat hack, as soon as you submit the transaction, it becomes visible in mempool, and any dark hat or black hat hackers can front run you and take advantage of that transaction. So it was used in a great set of articles by Dan Robinson from Paradigm, I believe it was.
Brilliant. Love that. I love that there's a crypto analogy for everything, or a sci-fi analogy for everything. So that is fantastic. Good stuff. All right. So, well, what can we say, listeners? The Three-Body Problem. If you haven't read that, look it up. I'm going to see if I can read that now, just because so many people have recommended it. And Anyway, let's finish this off, Alex. Nothing else to say except thank you for coming on the show, and I'll hand the microphone back to you. Please, tell the people where they can go to find you on your various platforms and why they should engage with IDEX as a DEX platform.
Yeah, thank you so much for the time. I really enjoyed the conversation and great questions. If you want to learn more about IDEX, check us out at IDEX.io. You can follow us on Twitter, again, at IDEX.io. We've got a Telegram and Discord as well if you want to jump in and get in touch with us. We're always happy to hear from people and would love to get to know you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Alex. All the best, and bye for now.
Great. Thank you.
All right, there you go. Alex from IDEX. Alex was a smart guy. That was a good chat. It'd be interesting to see how this DEX thing plays out. And I know I already said it, but come on, the 3-body problem. So as I say, a number of people have, picked that as their sci-fi book of choice here at the Crypto Conversation over the years. And I've always been aware of it as a kind of, a very famous piece of sci-fi literature, as it's to say, written out of China, so originally written in Chinese, and that has obviously been translated. But I'm going to read it, so I encourage you to as well. And then we'll share our thoughts. We'll do a Crypto Conversation book review, hey? Anyway, enough from me. Thank you very much for listening. Please do remember to subscribe to the Crypto Conversation in whatever podcast app you are using, so you know when each new episode drops. And if you are inclined, or if you did enjoy the show and you're on Apple or something, would love it if you could just give us a 5-star review. If you can be bothered, even write a nice review, but just hit the 5 stars button. Nice and easy. Would really appreciate that. All right, that's us. We are out of here. Thank you for listening. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New